Hello, and how are you doing? My name is Maurice King. This is Mo Reads Anything. And today I get to read one of my favorite poems of all time, Invictus, by William Ernest Henley. Yes, I know there was a movie in 2009, had Oscar-nominated performances from both Morgan Freeman and Matt Damon, but before we get into the situation that movie was created from, I wanted to talk about the life of William Ernest Henley, which would make a good movie in and of itself. William Ernest Henley was born in 1849 in Gloucester, England, son of a bookseller. His poetic genius was recognized early by the headmaster of his school. At age 12, he was diagnosed with tuberculosis of the bones in his lower left leg. By the time he was 20, his lower left leg would be amputated. Despite this, and the constant pain he was in from his tuberculosis treatments, he was considered to be a joy and inspiration to those around him. His friends would include authors Robert Louis Stevenson and J.M. Barrie. Stevenson would base the image of the peg-legged pirate Long John Silver from Treasure Island on his peg-legged friend. Henley would find himself hospitalized again with a tuberculosis attack on his right foot, but instead of amputation, he moved to Scotland to get help from noted surgeon Dr. Joseph Lister. It took 3 years, but Dr. Lister would save William Henley's foot. It was during this time Henley would write, with help from his friends, his collection in hospital, including the poem that would become Invictus. During his stay in Scotland, he would meet his wife Hannah, and they would have their daughter Margaret. Margaret, a sickly child who had trouble speaking, called her frequent visitor J.M. Barrie her Wendy Wendy. She inspired Barrie to create the character Wendy for his book Peter Pan. Sadly, Margaret would pass away in 1894, aged just 5. In his later years, Henley would become an influential editor and publisher. His most famous poem wouldn't get the name we know it by until 1900, when it was included in the Oxford Book of English Verse. Editor Arthur Quillen Couch gave it the name Invictus, meaning unconquered or unbeaten in Latin. Tuberculosis would finally win, with Henley's passing in 1903 at age 53. Henley's poem would go on to inspire millions around the world, including Nelson Mandela. In prison for fighting against South Africa's racist policy of apartheid, Mandela would spend 27 years in a small cell on Robben Island. He would hold on to Invictus as a symbol of hope and perseverance. After years of international sanctions and isolation, the South African government would finally release Mandela in 1990. He would go on to become South Africa's first black president 4 years later. South Africa was to host the 1995 Rugby World Cup. Great! Rugby is South Africa's national sport. Bad. Black South Africans saw rugby as a symbol of apartheid. Although they liked the sport, blacks would cheer for anyone other than the Springboks. Mandela would have several meetings with team captain Francois Pienaar. During one of those meetings, Mandela slipped a copy of Invictus to him. Inspired, Pienaar and the Springboks would take rugby to the townships like Soweto and began to build support from the black population. By the time the Springboks would beat arch-rivals New Zealand in the final, South Africans, black and white, were cheering for them. Now, poem considered by many to be the most inspirational poem ever written. Invictus, by William Ernest Henley. Dark as the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods there may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody, but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears lies but the horror of the shade. And yet the menace of the years finds, and shall find, me unafraid. It matters not how strait the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. Invictus, William Ernest Henley, 1875. Well, I hope you enjoyed the read, and if you did, hit that like button down below, and also hit the subscribe button and the bell. The bell lets you know when I'm posting another one of these. That actually is a good thing. Again, my name is Maurice King. This is Mo Reads Anything. Thank you for listening. I'll be seeing you next time.